Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to your weekly astrological weather. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Amanda Poole Walsh. Yes, I have a different background today. We actually came down a little for my Virgo daughter, Sophia. So Sophia's 9, and we got to celebrate. We had like a little studio by the sea. It was me and like 4 kids in this one little room, and it's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. So we're
Happy
here,
birthday,
and I'm
Sophia. Yay!
happy birthday, Sophia. Yeah. It's actually September 2nd. We decided to do it a little bit early for various reasons, but yeah. All right. So, Anne, let's talk about the weather. What would you rank it on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of intensity?
It's going to be a fast week, and I think intensity is going to be depending on if you get hit by the hammer or not. So it can be very, very intense, or it can be like you're watching someone else get smited. And you're like, oh, they just got, it's kind of like when you play croquet and you hit the ball against them and then you put your ball on your foot on your ball, and then you whack them out. So depending on if you're the wacky or the whackette, it's going to vary. So you're going to watch for smiting this week. And smiting, of course, there's a big thing in the sky called a Hammer of Thor. It's also called a Fist of God. And there's a very cute, I posted in my Facebook, there's a very cute picture of God, Gary Trudeau, God pushing the smite button as somebody walks under a piano, right? So a piano on a rope. So Hammers of Thor are really interesting. They're formed by a planet making 2 sesquiquadrates, which are stressful aspects that make you take action, to 2 planets that are in square to each other. Now we know on Monday, Mars went past his square to Saturn. He perfected it, which was all the blockage and people really arguing and really fighting. And of course, we had that gentleman shot in Kenosha. And I went, oh, Mars, Saturn, he's going to be paralyzed. And now they're saying it looks like he'll be paralyzed. But Mars got past that blockage, but he's still in a square shape to Saturn. And Mercury is talking to both of them. And Mercury is in his favorite sign. He's in Virgo. He loves Virgo. It just makes him very, very happy. But what he's doing is he's forming a stressful aspect to that square. Now, we've been dealing with that square really since the beginning of July, since July 25th, when Mars went into his upcoming retrograde. But his last week when it was square, the Saturn, was very tense for a lot of people. People really felt emotional. But now it's past it, and we're going to see or hear, because Mercury's news, often news, or words, we're going to see changes taking place. And sometimes we're not going to know what it is, but we're going to see something shift. So, I always watch when the aspect starts, and Mercury is communication and how we communicate. And one of the people in the American culture that has been very prominent has been Kellyanne Conway, who works for President Trump, and her husband, who runs the Lincoln Project. And they have a little girl who's 15, who's been tweeting and doing all sorts. So they both stepped down from their positions and said, we're going home to spend more time with the kids. And the 15-year-old went, wow, I did that? And I'm like, that's the Hammer of Thor. So it's a square. They're fighting, they're arguing, he's publishing nasty commercials. She works for Donald Trump. And their kid, Mercury in Virgo, talking to Sophia's strength, never let a Virgo child go. And when they point out something, always listen. So we got to see that shift. And so everybody's going to have a different reaction to it depending on who they are. The kid's kind of like, well, be nice to my parents now, because, don't go saying mean things about my parents, because they both stepped down. Right. Wow. So it's a square. It's action, unexpected, based on stress, taking and changing. And of course, Mercury is children, communication. We're having a lot of it with what sports we can play, news around kids going back to school, how are we going to do the schooling. That's all that Hammer of Thor. Depending on where Virgo is in your chart, that's where the hammer is going to be swinging from. And the business end of the hammer is wherever you have 25 Aries and 25 Capricorn. So that's where the hammer, that's where the croquet mallet happens. Now, depending on your position, I looked at that and I went, oh, Hammer of Thor, great. I love Hammers of Thor. I mean, we don't know all the background, but we go, oh, wow, boom, boom. And so you may be smited. I had a client who got a very long diatribe from her partner. It was very Virgo-esque in listing all the different things, and it's a Hammer of Thor. And so it's swinging. How do you work with it? How do you deal with it? What's your posture and how? Now, in my case, Virgo's in the 7th. So I had a client who got smited. I have, I'm watching smiting happen, which is actually I'm happy about, meaning I would prefer it be over there than me. But it also is, so depending on where you are in that hammer, that's important this week. And that's the energy. It's like you're either in or you're out. You're either the croquet ball getting kicked out of the game, or you're whacking your ball and sending them to someplace. And it may be both. It may be both. So the moon is in Sag, which is visionary, and then it goes into Capricorn, which is productive but harsh towards Thursday, Friday, and then it's very exuberant when it gets into Aquarius. So it's a nice working energy, but it's definitely action Jackson, take action, go, go, go. And you want to just kind of go, woo, smiting happening here, or, I think I'm going to take a crack at that. This is when everybody can hit home runs too. Like if you're launching a business, it's a very active, I have a few people, I'm launching my business. I'm like, well, you're launching it on a Hammer of Thor. So it'll either go knock the tops off of mountains, or it won't. But where is this in your chart? Because people really want to take action now because the Mars is finished. The Mars is finished being blocked. And he's like, I've got my mojo. And of course, we have all the fires in California. We just got a lot of people showing up to help fight them, right? We have that Grand Trine and fire we talked about on that new moon last week, 2 weeks ago. And that also got everybody, when, the ancients used to say, we all go, oh, trines are good. And they are, but they also are too much. So we have two of the biggest fires ever in California history with the North Node in Gemini, right? We also have two hurricanes coming in on the South, Gemini, so, and then the Hammer of Thor, like we're swinging it, right? So we'll see. It's a really interesting week. So some people are going to have a great week watching the hammer. Some people are going to have a week going, I got smited. And then figuring out what they want to do about it, if anything. Because sometimes you just go, okay, I got smited, now what? Yeah, so it's a big week. But I'm going to say, you can be a 3-4, kind of going, woo, 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 action, or you can be a, 15, on a scale of 1 to 10, where you're going, ouch, that hurt.
Okay, and so we've used this word smite a lot.
Smite. I love the word smite.
Well, what's the difference between smite and whacked or like bonked? Like what makes it a smite?
Well, you got to think of and I want to caution you, somebody Googled it on the internet and at work, and it pops up a lot of erectile issues.
Oh, okay.
Drugs for erectile. So you want to do Hammer of Thor astrology or Hammer of Thor mythology, and then you get this fiery hammer, right? And so Thor, who was a god, he could just send this hammer and it would knock it out, knock the top off a mountain. That's a pretty powerful hammer. It could just do stuff, at his bidding. And then it would come back to court and play music and, make gold jewelry. And it was a very talented hammer. And then if someone came in and didn't like, the hammer would kind of growl. And it would go, "Rrr." Kind of like when people, your dog doesn't like somebody. Right. And you're kind of like, my dog doesn't like you. That's not good. So the Hammer of Thor, it has that early warning sign too, but it's very potent. And this week is the news of the hammer. Next week is the sun is going to go in the same space and it's going to take action towards something. This is the news part. So we had Mercury rules mail. We had very contentious hearings with the Congress, with the Postmaster General. Mercury is Virgo. They're yelling about, all sorts of things. So it's a really interesting energy, and you want to watch Mercury because he's the hammer. Mercury's healthcare workers, Mercury's teachers. Florida teachers are filing they don't want to go back in class. Mercury's students. We had New York governors say which sports the kids could play. Mercury, Mars. Well, why can't why we can do lacrosse but we can't do football? Well, it's
Yes.
Everybody. It's Mercury. Like, what's the news? And then next week, the sun goes through the same thing, and we really see it on a whole new level. So it's important. It's a really important aspect because Mercury is giving us the message, and then we have to figure out what we want to do with it next week while Mars kind of separates from the guys. Now remember, he's just making us aware of stuff because he's going to retrograde back over all these positions. So I had COVID, right? I went down on July 26th. Well, July 25th, Mars went into his shadow. So Mars, in my case, is in my second house of money, and Saturn's in my 12th house of my clients, serving my clients. So I basically canceled August. So I was sick, and I'm really not completely better. I have energy that, kind of is like I can't even tell what it's going to do. Like 10 minutes from now, I could be asleep in my bed. But I was laughing with my assistant. I said, Mars retrograde for me is going to be all the clients I canceled in August. Because if you go to my calendar now, you book in November, December, right? All the people I canceled in August, I'm going to read finally. I'm going to have the energy to read them for that Mars retrograde. So I know what I'm doing on my Mars retrograde. I'm earning the money, and I'm seeing the clients that I couldn't see in August because I was so sick. So for all of us, go back to July 25th when Mars entered the shadow and see what it means, what this story means for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's big. Yeah.
So you said
smiting is a fun word.
I
like smiting.
Okay.
And I remember when my gay friend David Tavelin, who's a very curmudgeonly Scorpio Capricorn, so he's really net, right? And he goes, finger of God, and this is the fist of God. Fisting? You know what fists do? And I'm like, David, too much information. I don't want to know about fists. No. So I like hammer a little better. And for the parents in the room that are now going, my kid's going to ask me about fisting. What the hell do I say? Just say it's boom, 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 like a fist. We don't fight. We don't fist people we don't like.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. So you
a little X-rated in this show today. Sorry about that.
So you're saying, if someone wants to use this as a learning opportunity with their own chart and to start to play with this,
right?
You're saying, look at where our Mercury is?
Yeah, look at where Mercury is. Because Mercury is the handle of it. And Mercury is at 11 degrees. So look where 11 degrees is in your chart, 11 degrees Mercury, because that's the Hammer of Thor. Okay. That's the handle of the hammer.
All right. And then where it's going to hit, you said around 25
It's going to hit
Aries?
25 Aries or 25 Capricorn.
Or 25 Capricorn.
Because remember, they're in a square. They have that square they're perfected on Monday.
Right.
So they're the business end of the hammer. If you think of a hammer, and you're holding it at 11 Virgo, but you're swinging it at 25. It's swinging at the 25 Aries and the 25 Capricorn.
Okay. And then that's the thing that's gonna like catapult forward somewhere? Or like, how do we interpret that?
Well, are you the croquet ball sending the person off the scene, or are you the one, when you hit their ball, you put your foot on your ball and you whack your ball and their ball goes flying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So which one are you?
Mm-hmm.
Are you, how are you swinging that hammer? What are you doing?
Right.
Right.
And you said it could be a home run. I mean, it could be a good shot, or it could
Totally.
be
Look at
not
the
a great shot.
look at the kid, the Conway kid. She's like a liberal. She was tweeting. Her parents were yelling at her. She was going to file to be emancipated. Blah 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 blah. And and they both quit their jobs.
Wow.
It's a lot
Amazing.
of power for a little 15-year-old girl to have. And then she goes, "Now be nice to my parents. Don't be mean to them because they quit." Like, who knew? I mean, I just found out, right? That's the Virgo, right? So,
Wow.
yeah, so if you've got whatever is 11 of Virgo, that is where your hammer is. Now, earlier, Jamie had quoted that someone wanted to know which system I used. It doesn't matter which system. I was raised in Placidus. Some people use Coke. Some people use equal houses. It doesn't matter. Find 11 Virgo. Wherever that is, that's the handle of the hammer. That's where the business end is taking place. And then the hitting part, in my case, Mars in the second house of money and Saturn in the sixth house of work I'm supposed to do for clients. My business end is, I'm just now getting enough energy to read a couple clients a day. But, on a busy day before, I would read 11 clients. I would work from 11 to 11.
Wow.
But I got really turned on by astrology, and now I read a client, and I don't want to give a bad reading, right? So,
Right.
I know what my energy needs to be to give a good reading, and if it's not there, I got to cancel, which is very frustrating. But it also is like I'm honoring my Mars conjunct Saturn, saying, "And you do not have the energy." Mars square Saturn, you don't have the energy yet. Now, hopefully, now that Mars is past Saturn, I'll get more energy back.
Okay, so what are you thinking about, like the fires in California and some of the like natural disaster things that are happening? I remember that you said there's going to be a lot of fires because of the Grand Trine, and then Uranus and Taurus is like, if we were taking keyword, right? It's like lightning striking the earth. I mean that's really interesting. But what was something activated with Uranus and Taurus that made that actually?
Venus and Cancer. Venus and Cancer came and activated the Uranus and Taurus. Yeah.
Okay. So
now Mercury is trining it. So we're getting, Mercury at 11 with the hammer. They're getting in. The army came in with their little red sprayers of things, and they've got Australians coming in. The South Node's in Sag. They've got people coming in from all over the country to help them fight these fires. So that's good. But the Gemini North Node is why there's two. There's two hurricanes. There's two big fires, right?
Oh, that's why you brought up Gemini. Okay.
Well, because think of the Grand Trine, and then the outlet is the kite, the top of the kite, which is Gemini. So there'll be two. Both Conways step down, right? It's doubles, always doubles. So you watch for the double, and you go, okay, what's the change going to be that takes place here? It's big.
Okay.
And we go forward until Mars stops, which is September 9th, and get clear on stuff. But this is the time when we're going to get really clear what all we have to adjust, fix, change between now and when it goes direct on November 13th. So when they were saying to the post office guy on Monday, Mars-Saturn conjunction, it was very contentious. Well, who ordered these changes? I don't know. What do you mean? You took out 130,000 sorting machines and you don't know who ordered it? Really? That's an interesting thing to happen. That's that energy. It's like, Gemini, who asked for this? Who's the Gemini that asked? And Gemini, of course, rules mail. So they pop documents. I mean, it's that kind of crazy. And you just have to go, okay, universe is showing us stuff, revealing things. What do I think about it? What do I want to do with it? And in your own life, the universe is going to be smiting you or giving you information that you need to act with, work with, do something with. Or you get to watch. Or maybe you swing the hammer and you go, I'm done with this. Or someone swings the hammer at you, in which case you duck.
That's what I was going to ask you next. So what do we do with all this? Yeah. Like, what's the strategy? I mean, it sounds very dramatic. And there's like,
well, it's a Hammer of Thor. Amanda,
right.
when you're done, Google a picture of what it looks like. It's this hammer.
Well, I know.
On
I
fire.
love Thor. I
I
love
love
Thor the
Thor.
movie.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of my
Yeah.
favorites. I mean, I love Thor.
You know how he'd swing that hammer, and think about what that hammer did.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
It had its own life with Thor, right?
Right.
But
Yep.
it also, Thor ordered it around, and the hammer was like, sure, Thor, whatever you want, I'll go do it for you.
Right.
I love to smite things, And so, and smite and smith are very close, right? So blacksmiths, the origin of a lot of names, smiths back when we had horses, what do? They heat up the metal and they bang it with a hammer and they shape it into something they want it to be. So smiting has a great mythology. We don't do it that much anymore. We don't get to go down and watch them hoof our horses. But in the old days, they would put metal shoes on the horses that they smited. The blacksmith measured the horse, made a shoe to fit it by heating up metal, bending it, and beating it with hammers. It's a very powerful energy, not always pleasant. If you're on the receiving end, if you're the hammer wielder, it's kind of fun. You're making a horseshoe, or you're smiting something into shape. So,
and so, what is the benevolence in this energy? Like, what's the purpose?
It clears things out.
Okay.
It's not an easy aspect.
It's not easy, but it's not to punish us, like as we talk about a lot.
Right. Well, they were, one of the things that I read right before we did the podcast today was somebody had gone to one of the national redwood forests. The redwoods have been around 2,000 years. The trees are fine. The campsite burned down. The council store burned down. All the little visitor booths, they're all gone. But the trees are good.
Really? That's amazing. I mean, I have some friends who lived real close to there, and they were grieving about the trees because they just said it's the most beautiful thing ever. But you're saying the trees are fine.
Well, somebody went there and said, the trees are good. I mean, they've been through a lot of fires. The underbrush goes, the baby trees goes, the dead ones that are the ones that are dead go, but the ones that are 2,000 years old, they've had fire before. They're still there.
Right.
The land is
saying
there.
All the man-made structures that we created, to make it a tourist attraction or whatever, those are gone. Oh, wow. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, so we're clearing house. We're clearing house. We're making space for something new, right? Mm-hmm. We're seeing what has reached its expiration date potentially, right? Okay. And this is the energy of the whole week, is basically this Hammer of Thor thing the whole week. And then
because Mercury is doing it now. Mercury's telling you what he's doing. Next week, the sun comes through and he makes another hammer. Oh. So we have the Mercury hammer now, which is, how do we do it? And then we have the sun hammer next week, which says this is what we're going to do, right? Yeah.
Okay. Now the Mercury hammer we're seeing it around these mercurial areas of life, right? You said like teachers and school and postmaster and mail, communication and
yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. When the sun makes a hammer of Thor, and I don't want to do too much of a preview of next week.
Well, when the sun makes it, you see what you need to change.
Your friends.
Yeah, your friends that were mourning the worry of the tree, they'll go look and see the trees are okay. The farm, the buildings that were made by man are gone. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And you'll see what you'll also, because you get the news this week, you'll figure out what you want to do with it next week. Right. Because Mercury is the news, and next week you have the plan. And you say, okay, I'm going to take that plan and work with it. That makes sense?
So in terms of a strategy for working with this energy, yeah, it does. It does. And so in terms of a strategy for working with the energy this week, it's just, I mean, I could feel that some people might feel like they're bracing, like, okay, yes. Like what's going to happen? Where's this? But bracing is making us like do the constriction thing, which always isn't always right. Can we be ready?
Not a good idea to brace. Not a good idea.
Right.
You have to pretend you're a little drunk. You know how like they have car accidents and the drunk guy always walks away because he's relaxed. But when you see the car coming to hit you, you go, oh my God, it's going to hit me. And you brace. Bracing's not good.
Right.
Not good. It's watching what gets illuminated and then figuring out what you want to do with it, because the illumination has happened. The communication has happened. We're going to come to understand it this week. And then next week, we're going to have to figure out how we handle it.
Okay. You know,
because next week we're conscious. You know, this week we get told and we go, what? And then next week we go, oh, okay, let's see how that works out.
Right. Well, with all of the very athletic energy that we've been talking about with this, it reminds me of something we've talked about in the inner circle, which was this idea of staying bouncy this year, and not bouncy like, oh, cheerful, bouncy like a tennis player.
Your knees are bent.
A tennis player
when you're
ready.
Skiing. Yeah.
Exactly. Skiing or getting ready for the volley to come across
you bounce, you
the
get
net.
Your knees.
Or, you know, it's like, exactly, you're ready, but you're not braced, because that would be totally unproductive.
Right.
I mean, you can't be athletic with your knees locked and your back erect like that. So you have to be like more fluid, but and ready to hit the ball or
excellent analogy
turn around the rock.
Excellent analogy, Amanda. Yeah, and flexible.
So that's our strategy.
Virgo's flexible. Yeah, be flexible.
Right.
Go. Oh wow.
Right.
You know, I mean, I don't have any. I don't know the Conways, but I'm going to watch that story. You know, it's like stuff coming to light. You go, all right, interesting. Okay, let's see how that shows up. You know. Yeah, it's and flexibility. You know, when I would ski and the guy would bend your knees.
Even do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Do your yoga. Do your flexibility. Do your
maybe
stuff.
even yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And even just right now, you could like get up and kind of like feel what it feels like to be bouncy and ready.
Yeah.
But not braced.
Not braced. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Excellent analogy for that. Yeah, because that's really the key. The other thing that's happening is Sedna is stationing, and Sedna is, we don't do a lot with her because she's an ocean goddess. She's the Inuit goddess, but we're going to watch for some news around the oceans, whether it's an iceberg falling or there's that town that's been evacuated that they're waiting for the glacier to come down. We're going to look for water shifting. Or water stories, stories of the sea, stories of water. Because whenever she stops, we have kind of a shift in our understanding of the ocean and the power of the ocean. We don't often think about how powerful the ocean is, but when you look at the earth, you do see how much is ocean. So when Sedna stops, there's usually some kind of big water story. Ocean story. Yeah. So.
Okay, well, I guess my setting is appropriate then.
Yeah. When you said I might be on the beach, I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool, because you're right where you're supposed to be. You're sitting on the ocean, waiting for
Sedna, when does that happen? Sedna stations?
Yeah, Sedna stations on the 29th, and she's stationing at 28 Taurus. When she got discovered, and right after she got discovered, we had that huge tsunami where a couple 100,000 people got killed in Thailand and stuff, in that Indonesia tsunami. A lot of times she's tsunamis. Not always, but that's, she's the ocean in its magnificence. So when they were talking about Laura turning into a Hurricane 3 and they were going a 12-foot, 10 to 12-foot storm surge, that's the ocean kicking up. So that's the 29th. So that's when Laura's due to hit. So it may just be Laura, the hurricane that's hitting the Gulf. But a lot of times it usually is some ocean energy. The ocean, there's like an ocean story that takes place. One time when she activated, when that Crocodile Dundee guy got, not crocodile, but the Steve Bindi guy got stung by the stingray, so she always has some kind of interesting ocean story. Yeah. So that's the other.
It's so interesting. Can you hear me, Anne?
Can you hear me? Okay? Yeah. You're a little delayed. Your mouth moves.
Oh, I see. Okay. I see. The girls and I have been having a lot of conversations recently about what Hawaii would have been like before everybody came here. And there's certain places that are really preserved and you can go. And my daughter's gone and she said it's just unbelievably gorgeous and beautiful and pristine, and you're seeing like shells that you would never see on a beach because someone would snag it. Someone would like pick it up and take it because it's extraordinary,
Yeah, yeah.
And yesterday when I was in the ocean, I was looking around and seeing all these buildings and all these structures and all these things we built right on the ocean. And I had this thought of like, well, how would that ever change? Like to take these things down, if we ever did, if we ever wanted to make this really beautiful again, we'd have to take down all these buildings and all these structures and all these things, and where would it all go? And it's just an interesting thing to think about, especially as you're bringing up the redwoods, that the trees were there, they're good, it's all those things we built that are gone. And when you bring up tsunamis, it's like, oh, that would do it.
That was not an answer to your prayer, Amanda. That was not what that was. Yeah.
I know. I'm like, but I don't want that,
right.
No,
so, yeah,
yes, but
yeah. But it is true. I mean, think about, the last couple days was, Moon in Scorpio. So Moon in Scorpio is how everything ends and dies. And of course, when you go to Jerusalem, they're digging because it's thousands and years of people living there. We go to Rome, they dig up stuff, thousands of years of people living there, and it's buried, and you dig it up and you find it. But as humans, we're like little, we think we're cool and we think we're really important, but we're like these little fragments. There's a thing in New York at the Hayden Planetarium. You come down this huge ramp when bacteria came in and billions of years, and you walk down this big ramp and you get to the bottom and there's a human hair, and they have it in the thing and they go, this is how long humans have been on Earth. And you kind of look back at the ramp that you took 10 minutes to walk down and you go, and that's all of humans. That's not just my life. That's like the 20,000 years we've been here. So it's, we're like a little smidgy, but we're restructuring our vision, our life, our world. Capricorn, rises again. It always does. And we're saying, what are the structures we're looking to build? And so as Mars goes past Saturn, he should have alerted you to the structure that he wants you to change. And earlier in the week, he introduced you to power last week when he went by Pluto, and he went by Jupiter, and he said lots of change, Jupiter. And so now as he goes forward to 29 Aries, where he stops and he looks and he goes, okay, so I told you all the things we have to adjust and fix. Are you ready? And then from September through November, we'll be fixing them. And then we get to November 13th and we'll go forward full steam ahead towards our new vision of what we're going to make, what we're going to do. So it's important for everybody to really watch, because the
That's
COVID
in November?
clump is very, November, when Mars goes direct on November 13th.
I said that's in November, when we're actually going to have that much of a energy shift in November, you think?
Yeah, because Mars entered his shadow on July 25th. He gets up to 29 Capricorn or 29 Aries and stops on September 9th. And then he goes backwards to 15 on November 13th, which is probably when they'll finish counting the votes, truth be told. And then he stops again and he goes forward through it for the third time. So it's 1, I woke you up between now and September 9th. 2, between September 9th and November 13th, you figure out what you want to do about it. And then we get to September 13th, November 13th, then it's going to be full steam ahead. So when I was saying it may take me, from canceling all these clients in August, it may take me till November 13th to read them all, because I got to fit them in to an already full schedule, and I don't know what my energy is going to do. So so everybody, whatever started July 25th through September 9th, but really more through Monday, that's what you're going to be working on September 9th through November 13th. So it's a big, juicy energy, and it really does ask us to evolve and change. And it's hard because, we're humans. We don't really like change. To your point, what would happen if we took down all those buildings? What would happen?
Well, and what would be the impetus of that? Like something big would have to happen for that to even be on the table. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like people couldn't come here for a very long time, so we don't need all these structures and
Right.
like but when I go there, it's like, oh wow, that means a very, very, very different world than the one we have
Totally.
right now,
Well,
right?
they're saying it. Yeah, we're saying it here in New York. New York's Mercury is 22 Capricorn, right? So we have a lot of companies don't have to stay here anymore because you can work at home, and people are going, New York is dead. New York is dead. I'm like, oh, we're not dead, but we aren't going to know what we're going to be until November because we're a mess. We're having this thing in our foundation of who we are. So, in New York, it's in the foundation. In my chart, it's in my 12th house. Last time I had this was I had a computer business. It was before I found astrology. So I'm back in 90. We're all back in 91 and working with that old energy. If you've been alive long enough, what were you doing in 91? Well, I had a computer business. I was doing really well. And I was like, okay, what's next? Right. So I know that I'm in the, okay, what's next phase, but it doesn't happen for another year. But I'm figuring it out. Everybody think about what was going on for you in spring, summer of 91, because that's going to give you a highlight into the story that's important now for you to work on. And it is about, we're all going to have, before and after COVID. And we're all, we know after every pandemic or war, there's a renaissance, there's a rebirth. So we have that next year. And, we're figuring it out as we go along. So it's also being, to your point with the Virgo being really flexible, keeping your knees bent, or I remember taking tennis lessons and, you would sit there like this, which way do I go? They're going to hit the ball back and you're ready. Your knees are bent because you're ready to launch in whatever direction. And we're going to have the US Open with no people to watch, but you can watch the tennis players and they sit there like waiting for the serve, right? So that's a great analogy, Amanda, that all of us live in our high flexibility place, waiting for the ball to come our way so that we can smite it back.
So, Anne, are you still feeling, so, I mean, whenever I hear them talk about pandemics in the past, it'll be like, you guys will do a date range that usually is like 4 to 5 years. And it's funny because when I hear the date range, it's like, oh, that doesn't seem like that much time. But then I imagine living through that. It's like, whoa, I mean, we're only in month whatever of this. And it's like, feels like a lifetime. Can you imagine?
6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine 4 or 5 years? But so you feel like you, and I'm just, because I know you've said this before, so I'm just confirming now that we're here where we're at, you feel like the biggest part of the intensity is this year. And that from here on is really, truly like the rebuilding of the future, but like the most intense breakdown structure, the most intense breakdown is now, and the next phase is going to be restructuring and restoring something new.
No, big renovation between September and November. That's big. That's when I'm talking about the food shortage.
But I mean 2021.
2021. Yes. Well,
beyond.
we have a couple issues, right? So this week we also had confirmed that someone had COVID and then caught it again. Now we know it's in the coronavirus family, which is a cold family, right? And we know immunity dissipates for colds because we get colds a lot. So we heard that. Now I had somebody say it to me the other day on the phone that they knew somebody who caught it twice. I'm like, shit, man, really? We're going to invent a vaccine. Well, if people don't take the vaccine, it's going to stay around. You look at some of the other things like smallpox that were endemic in the population for years. How do we successfully manage that energy so that we work with it in a way? And of course, now they're talking about people that get it and don't get better, which I'm like, please, I don't want to be in one of that pile. But it is a virus that's new to humans. So we don't know the long-term implications of it. So yes, that's part of it too, is like, well, what's that structure going to look like? Saturn, Jupiter. If we're going to say, hey, you're coming from a place with a lot of COVID, you have to sit in a house for 2 weeks before you can go out because you might infect people. That's going to really affect travel. You got to do 2 weeks quarantine in a place you go to Australia now, they pop you in a hospital or in a hotel for 2 weeks. They don't let you just hit the ground and run around Australia. You got to stay in a hotel for 2 weeks. We're not like them because, we're the Wild West, but yeah. So
But
big.
that's just COVID. I mean, COVID is just the one thing. I mean, there's like all these other things around it too, right?
Well,
there's
it's going to cause
a lot of things happening right now.
All the businesses that are going to go out of business, all the people that are going to be evicted from their homes because we stopped the eviction, all the people that aren't going to have food because we stopped giving them money. So when we get hungry and we're homeless and we're kicked out of everything we've owned, people get really mad because they get angry that it got taken away, and who are they going to take it out on? There's a lot of anger running around in the world right now. A lot of people are really reporting, I'm so mad. I'm like, well, use it in a good way. But yeah, this is the energy of the Mars fighting with the COVID planets, which does not end until January. Then in January, Saturn will be in Aquarius saying, what's the community going to build? But it's going to be squared by Uranus, which is the planet of change and lightning bolts. And, I can't do it that way anymore. Okay, how do I do it instead? So it's an ingenuity thing. It's a Renaissance energy. Uranus is always Renaissance. But also the last time Uranus was in Taurus was the Dust Bowl 84 years ago. And the migration from the country to the cities were huge. Because they went for work, and now we have Uranus and Taurus, and we don't have to. Not everybody has to work in their offices anymore, so that's going to cause a whole structural change in how we work. And then secondly, people are really looking at their work stories or their work. The structure of your life is undergoing major renovations somewhere in your chart, wherever you have the 20s of Capricorn. So whatever house is being renovated, you're undergoing all this renovation, and you're kind of like, okay, what's going to happen now? Saturn in the 12th, which is what I have, is staying home. So all last year when I would book, I had all these speaking engagements all over the place and all over the world. And I kept booking them and looking at Saturn in the 12th going, well, it says I'm staying home, but I'm just got asked to speak here. Okay. And then they've all been canceled, right? And where have I done them? I've sat here at my desk and done Zoom talks with you or with them. I haven't traveled. I rode a bus and I got friggin' COVID. Otherwise I was just in my little neighborhood going to my grocery store and stuff. So, yeah. So,
Okay.
So the astrology of where the renovation is taking place in your chart is huge at that Capricorn house. So in New York's case, we've had this huge building, and now, nobody needs to live in the buildings anymore, right? Because why do we want to work? And nice to work at home. Or I can live somewhere else and work.
Well, it's a lot less expensive, and it takes a lot less time. You don't have to commute. I mean, there's a million benefits.
A lot of benefits to it. But that's structure. That's completely restructuring how we did our lives, right? And we're all doing it. Everybody's having it. The whole world's having a complete restructuring of how we do our lives. So that's good. Yeah. So we get to all come up with a new vision. And hopefully, with the Saturn and Jupiter getting together in Aquarius, we work together collaboratively and creatively in a way that helps us get where we want to go. So it's good. I mean, it's hard. It's so hard. And so many people are depressed and sad. And, we don't like change. It's not easy. But the good news is this week, you're going to see it in a different way. You're going to see it you're going to hear about it in a different way. And then next week, you're going to see it in a different way. And remember, the sun in Virgo is very much about how do I solve the problem? So the good news about this Hammer of Thor, first with Mercury, then with the sun, is you're going to see, well, if I really want to solve this problem, this is what I have to do. These are the steps I have to take. And if I don't take them, then I have an outcome I may not like. Or if I do take them, I may get a different outcome. And remember, how we got to where we are now is by the decisions we made so far in our life. So now the universe is saying, new decisions? How do you feel about that? And you might go, I don't like any new, I don't want to make any new, and like, I hear you, you don't have to, but it's coming. So
Yes.
I'm like, get flexible, get your knees bent, go, okay, how are we going to do it? Yeah, because that's the only thing we can do. And remember that little tiny hair at the end of the ramp at the Hayden Planetarium. We are but a speck.
That's both good for perspective and also for not taking ourselves too seriously.
Right.
Remembering to actually enjoy the ride. I mean, even when
Mm-hmm.
it's scary, even when it's uncertain, even when we
Mm-hmm.
don't know where we're going, even when it seems like everything's breaking down, it's like I believe we chose here. That
Yeah.
we chose this time, we chose this lifetime, we chose the chart, we chose it all.
Mm-hmm.
So just at this point, it's written in the stars. Like literally, if astrologers were to look at 2020 centuries ago, they would have been able to see all of the energy that has been happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like there's nothing we could have done about it to make it differently. And so it's
Mm-mm.
just, okay, well, let's just enjoy and take the gifts from whatever it is that we set up for ourselves.
Right.
For our own growth, for our
Yep.
own evolution here.
That's exactly
Like,
the way to think about it. Because there was a French astrologer, Andre Barbeau, and he said, the pandemic in 2020 and 2021 is really going to be huge. It's global and it's got a big economic change. So it's also going to shift. And, he predicted it in 2001. So, I mean, he said the pandemic, blah, 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 Capricorn, business, companies, corporations, governments, huge changes in how we look at the structure of our world. And we're all part of the deal. And I do say that to people when I do readings now, even though I can only do like 2 a day. Yeah, you picked now to incarnate. So there's changes being asked of you, and you're here on Earth now to do something. And it may just be to hang out and read a good book. It may be you're a first responder. It may be you're one of those exhausted fire guys in fire women and men in California fighting the fire. You've got a purpose and a path. And so I think that's part of the Virgo component of this Hammer of Thor. Like, what is it you can actually do? And then next week, when the sun comes through, you'll go, I have a plan. And so that's good. And it's not forever. It's, it may just be the plan to make mushrooms for dinner tonight. And that's all you can do. And that's okay, because that's the plan. Yeah.
I keep talking to my daughters about that. I was like, this is the plan for right now.
Now.
We have
Yeah.
no idea in a week or 2 weeks or a month or 2 months. So we have to just get used to not being able to see very far out in the future. This is a good thing to cultivate right now when you're young.
Yep.
To know that, like, yes, we can have a plan. And so have our plan, but then just be, open to things as they continue to shift and change around us. We'll shift and change with it, and we can handle anything that comes our way. It's okay. We're resourced. We're not going to get anything more than we can handle. And let's just have fun while we do it.
Yeah.
Like what else? I mean, it's like, what else can we do? I think finding as much joy in the process as possible, that actually is the hardest work.
Yes. Well, because a lot of times we live our lives with, that's a great.
And seems like one of the most important things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of times we live our life like, that's a great moment. And we don't realize, I mean, everybody that I know that has kids has been talking about how great it is to be able to spend time with them home, especially kids that have left home and came back because of the COVID. And that this is an opportunity never to probably ever happen again. And the understanding the process of living. Virgo is a sign that's very much about the process of living and the daily activities, the chop wood, carry water, tasks that make us go, oh, that's so good. The cup of coffee in the morning, the petting the cat. It's the process steps. And so in Virgo time, which is what we're in now, Virgo invites us to pay attention to the process and understand in those steps, there's a journey that takes place, and that daily habitual thing that invites us to do things in a new way or change. Like I've lived in my apartment 41 years, right? And last week on Sunday, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, I was dumping garbage and my neighbor came out and complained to me about how noisily I throw away my garbage. And I kind of looked at her and I went, what? She goes, well, you're very noisy the way you throw away your garbage. And I said, okay. And I said, well, and she said, and you threw away garbage the other day at 1:30 in the morning. And I'm like, well, I've been sick. So like at 1:30 in the morning, if I'm awake and I have enough energy to throw away garbage, I throw it away. I mean, I didn't add all that, but I said, I've been sick. And then she says, well, you're very noisy in your garbage throwing. Now she's lived next door to me for 10 years. Right. And I am a noisy person. I freely admit that. But I came in and I was thinking about it. I thought, God, I've been throwing away garbage for 41 years the same way. I take a big bag of garbage and I throw it in and it gets stuck and I go bang, 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 and I get it to go down. It's very, happy. I like bang, bang, bang. But maybe I should throw away smaller bags of garbage that don't get stuck in the chute. And then I'll be a quiet garbage thrower. But then I'm like, she's been annoyed with me throwing garbage away for 10 years because she's like lived next door to me for 10 years. And obviously I'm the noisy garbage thrower away on the floor because, so that's the Virgo, right? Am I going to be flexible? Or, so earlier today I opened a new bag of garbage and I got a big one, that I'm supposed to take out. And I thought, I'm going to make noise in the garbage. Or I'm going to go and I'll try and quietly throw away my garbage. This is our opportunity to change. 41 years I've been throwing away my garbage the same way. It's not a big chute. And you get it in there and gets stuck and you go bang, bang, bang to get it go down, or you have to push. So new ways to throw away the garbage. All good. Allowing ourselves to change. Allowing ourselves
to change. And look, that woman who probably has been silently cursing you for however many years.
10 years at least.
She finally got the courage to say something, which is a big probably change for her. Mm-hmm. So, and look how you're responding. So yes, that is so, and that is a big deal actually. It seems like a small thing, but the way we do all those little habits tasks to start making, to start making shifts there, that has ripple effects in the way we start to see, oh, well, maybe I could do that different too. And maybe I could do that different too. Mm-hmm. So I love that story, Anne. Thank you. Your story.
You throw away your garbage, Yeah.
Seriously.
I'm like a big bag, man. And I drag it out and then maybe little bags more frequently,
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And maybe we can all move towards less garbage. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's I keep thinking about how do we make less garbage in general, but those are bigger questions. So
bigger questions.
All right, Anne. So we have this hammer of Thor action going. So there's a lot of smiting. Are we being smited or are we the ones smiting? For that, we're talking about
or are we watching? Or there's a third option where we can watch and go, smiting happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Then we have this idea of staying flexible and bouncy and ready for whatever comes our way. Mm-hmm. Look for the doubles of things in the news and just in the world with the Gemini action. Mm-hmm. Watch what is illuminated, and Sedna stationing may be something with the ocean.
Yes, and
maybe
also
something with the sea.
Mercury, after he finishes the Hammer of Thor, which is the first part of the week, he gets into, okay, let's make a deal. So you can get a lot of offers this week. A lot of people should be getting job offers or opportunities. So don't be afraid if something comes in and you're like, oh, I got an offer. I'm going to go do that.
Right.
Yeah. Because Mercury is going to leave. Right now he's in the smiting section, but he's going to go into the trining section at the end of the week. So that is an opportunity for offers or new opportunities coming your way. So, and that also would, in my mind, help California calm down a little. Because we get a grand trine in Earth, which says less fire, more Earth.
Okay.
We get to contain it. So that would be the end of the week. Yeah. Good.
That would be really good. Really good. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us for your weekly weather. Anne, thank you so much for being here with us. This is a highlight of 2020 for me. And I know for a lot of people too. So,
and I love your beautiful background,
Anne,
Amanda, and happy birthday.
Again next week.
Happy birthday to your baby, Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
We're going to go play in that ocean here today. So, all right, everybody. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.